Hey, everyone, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the profound theological and historical foundations of the Catholic Church's hierarchy. We are going to map out exactly how a sacrament is built from the ground up, moving from ancient texts to the very real structures of modern faith. We're pulling our insights today straight from a rigorous academic text by Antonio Morales titled Theologia Liturgica dei Sacramenti Ordinae. Published in Rome in 2010, this work meticulously decodes the official modern liturgical guidebook for ordinations. Essentially, it's giving us a rare structured peek right under the hood of the Church's official rulebook, shedding light on the exact mechanics of how someone actually becomes a member of the clergy. But before we even look at the physical rituals of ordination, you've got to understand a vital concept, the praenotanda. These are the introductory notes or guidelines found right at the beginning of a liturgical book. They don't just tell a bishop where to stand or what to say, they provide the foundational theological principles. They are the crucial instructions that give us the ultimate why behind the what of the entire ordination ceremony. To make all this complex theology accessible, we're following a clear roadmap today. Il manuale dell'ordinazione, pascere il gregge, il dono dello spirito, I tre gradi, and finally, il ruolo del vescovo. Starting off with Section 1, Il manuale dell'ordinazione. We're decoding the source material in the liturgical rulebook. Now, check out how the manual's index highlights the praenotanda right at the very top. It's pretty telling, right? It visually proves that the first thing a bishop or priest must read before an ordination isn't the stage directions for the ritual. Instead, it's this deep theological framework. The Church is literally mandating that you've got to grasp the spiritual reality before you even think about performing the physical action. Moving on to Section 2, Passare il gregge, which explores feeding the flock and the pastoral roots of church governance. The text traces the concept of ordination straight back to the New Testament, specifically to this ancient Greek term episkopos. It literally means overseer or guardian, and yep, it's the exact root of our modern English word bishop. It takes this lofty, abstract theology of church governance and grounds it firmly in the gritty, earthy imagery of a watchful shepherd looking out for their community. You can really see the continuity of doctrine over millennia here. Just look at this quote from the book of Acts, chapter 20, where Paul is addressing the elders at Miletus. He says, "Watch over yourselves and all the flock, in which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers to be shepherds of the church of God." He is explicitly commanding these ancient overseers to guard their communities against perverse doctrines. That direct pastoral mandate is still the absolute core of the job today. So, what does feeding the flock actually look like? Well, Morales points out it requires a very specific two-pronged approach. On one side, you have the word, the verbo. This is all about teaching the faithful and actively fending off false doctrines. But on the other side, you have the grace, the gratia. This goes beyond mere words. It's about actually communicating the saving power of God through the sacraments. It's not just giving good advice, It's about actively transmitting divine grace to sanctify the believers. All right, Section 3, Il dono dello spirito. The gift of the Spirit, taking us from mystic theology to structural reality. This brings us to a huge question. What does it actually mean to receive the gift of the Spirit during an ordination? Is it just a nice symbolic blessing, like a spiritual pat on the back as you take a new job? Or is something much more mechanical, ontological, and permanent happening to the individual? Paul answers this perfectly in his second letter to Timothy. He writes, "For this reason, I remind you to rekindle the gift of God that is within you through the laying on of my hands." The Greek word used here is charisma. So this ancient physical ritual of laying on hands isn't just a temporary assignment. It imparts a permanent, non-transient gift, a literal charisma, passed directly from God to the ordained minister. Let's break down the mechanics of this gift based on the source text. The Spirit provides a spirit of power, love, and prudence, actively helping the minister guard that precious deposit of faith. Ultimately, the Holy Spirit is the true protagonist and responsible party here. But this is the truly mind-bending part of the theology. The source notes reveal that the Spirit is both the giver of the gift and the gift itself. The Holy Spirit isn't just handing out tools of power and wisdom. The Spirit is the tool, literally dwelling inside the person to make this incredibly demanding ministry possible. It is a total game changer. Which leads us right to Section 4, I tre gradi, the 3 degrees, structuring the hierarchy of the Church. Think of this as an unbroken chain of succession. Step 1, Christ is sanctified and sent into the world by the Father. Step 2, he shares that consecration and mission with the apostles. Step 3, the apostles pass the office to their successors, the bishops. And finally, the bishops entrust varied degrees of this ministry to priests and deacons. It is a strictly top-down flow of divine authority. It proves that the minister's role isn't just some functional middle management job, but an actual ontological participation in the consecration of Christ himself. The authority flows straight from the top. You can easily see how this massive responsibility gets distributed across 3 distinct degrees. At the very top, we have the bishops, or vescovi, who possess the absolute fullness of the sacrament of orders. Right below them are the priests, the presbyteri, who are entrusted with a specific degree of the ministry to assist those bishops. And finally, the deacons, or diakoni, who are ordained specifically for a ministry of service, rounding out the 3 ancient orders. It's an incredibly organized distribution of spiritual labor. And finally, Section 5, Il ruolo del vescovo, the role of the bishop, masters, pontiffs, and pastors. The text uses this incredibly weighty Latin phrase to describe a bishop's authority, in persona Christi, meaning in the person of Christ. This indicates that when a bishop presides, he's not acting on his own behalf, or even as a mere representative. He is visibly and sacramentally sustaining the role of Jesus Christ, acting as the head of the church. He's literally standing in the shoes of the founder. Now, I absolutely love this etymological hook. The official text calls bishops pontiffs, or pontifex. This is a term originally used in ancient Roman religion for pagan priests who oversaw public cults, and it literally translates to bridge builder. Christians boldly hijacked this word back in the 4th and 5th centuries to emphasize the bishop's role as the ultimate bridge builder between God and the human community. Talk about repurposing a civic title for a massive theological reality. So what does this bridge building look like in practice day to day? Well, according to Vatican II documents, bishops basically juggle 3 core functions. First, teaching, acting as masters of the faith. Second, the priesthood, serving as authentic pontiffs who administer sacraments. And third, governance, functioning as the pastors who actually guide the physical flock. They are simultaneously teachers, priests, and governors, all rolled into one. But how does a modern bishop actually connect to the wider world? One guy can't run everything everywhere, right? Theology handles this with a dual focus. On the universal side, united with the Pope, the global body of bishops perpetuates the apostolic college, bringing the variety and universality of the entire world into one group. But locally, individual bishops are the visible foundation of unity for their specific local church communities. It's a beautiful balancing act between local governance over their specific city and a global universal unity alongside the Pope. As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. If the Catholic hierarchy is truly built on this unbroken sacramental chain straight from the apostles, how does that ancient passing of the torch challenge our modern understanding of leadership and authority today? In a world completely obsessed with voting, elections, and climbing the corporate ladder, how does this ancient, spiritually bestowed authority change the way we view true, permanent leadership? Think about that as you process the structured reality of these ancient rites. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.